if you go on Twitter, you realize just how dumb some people are, and that the Romanian expression, the mother of stupid people is always pregnant, is absolutely true. It's fascinating. Like, people are so dumb, but they're extremely opinionated. Like, at least if you're dumb, just shut up. But the reason I'm saying this is that Joe Rogan rejected Kamala Harris's proposal. And people were like, oh my God, look at the prima donna. Oh, you don't do this. You don't understand. Like she's the vice president and you got to do whatever she says. Like, if she asks you to go to her, you got to do that. And if she only has 1 hour, you should be grateful and thank her. And I'm like, how do these people think the world works? Like, do you think that just because you get a position, like just because you as a human being is in a position in an institution, you automatically get respect, you automatically like have people bowing to your feet and worshiping the ground you walk on just because you're the vice president, just because like someone chose you as their running mate and got into office, all of a sudden all the journalists, all the media have to worship the ground you walk on? It's bizarre. You do not live in a monarchy, okay? Like, Washington did not put the crown on top of his head so that you need to worship the aristocracy. Basically, what happened is that Joe Rogan invited both parties to send their nominee in order to have an interview, and it turns out that Donald Trump did go there. The interview was incredibly popular. It was suppressed from YouTube for a while. You couldn't search for it, but then it came back up. And, you know, people were wondering, well, is Kamala Harris going to go there? And she agreed to the interview, but she had conditions. And it was like, no, Joe Rogan has to come to her. And she only has 1 hour. And Joe Rogan responded by saying that, no. Like, I just want to meet her and get to know her as a human being. And apparently that wasn't possible. Because she didn't accept it. So the reason that I'm saying, like, this makes sense, and Joe Rogan is entitled to actually do this, is that if it was someone like me, you know, with a small channel, getting to interview a politician like the vice president of the United States, then yeah, I would probably have to go. I mean, it is the vice president of the United States, right? It is a politician, so, like, I would have to actually change my agenda in order to make it happen, because this is a career-changing event. Like, you get to interview a U.S. politician, that they're a person that's going to appear in the history books. They are someone, you know, I'm going to get a lot of eyeballs on my channel. I'm going to get an influx of new subscribers. People are going to talk about me. Like that makes sense if you're a nobody. If you're Joe Rogan, he doesn't need her. Like, he's not going to get more subscribers because he got Kamala Harris on. He's not going to have like a career-changing moment. Nothing is any different than if he were to have any other guest. Which is probably why he's going to have J.D. Vance, right? Like from the perspective of Joe Rogan, it doesn't matter if he's got Kamala Harris or someone else. And this is like what baffles my brain. It's like people out there just don't understand this. Like, they think like, no, it's a subservient position. It's like Joe Rogan should bend the knee. Why? Why should he? It makes absolutely no sense. And not to mention, politicians need the media, not the other way around. Like, the media could always talk about something else. Politicians need to get the message to the people, otherwise they don't get elected. So, it's actually not uncommon for politicians to actually pay the media to get an interview. Like, this usually happens behind the scenes in many countries. I don't know if it's a practice in America, but it wouldn't surprise me because it's not illegal, right? So, like, basically, you go to a television station and you pay the money, which is part of, like, the campaign finances. It's kind of like an advertisement, if you will, in order to get the time of a famous reporter. Like, I don't know, it used to be Tucker Carlson, but, like, now it could be whomever works at CNN or MSNBC. And they get to interview you so that you can send the message to the people. That's actually how it works. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Tucker Carlson actually get paid by Putin to go to Russia. In fact, he probably did. Not necessarily like getting money in his hand, but like the trip, the expenses, the hotel, like all of that may have been paid. You don't know these things because they're happening behind closed doors and there's NDAs, obviously. But like, again, it wouldn't surprise me because that's the way things work. Like that is the normal way businesses happen. Like the politician usually pays the guy from the media for the privilege of getting interviewed. And I want to make it clear that people understand. I'm talking about before an election and getting interviewed by someone significant. So it's not like some random chucklehead, right? No. Like before an election, especially a couple of weeks before an election, and getting interviewed by an extremely high-profile figure. Joe Rogan is a massively high-profile figure. Like he actually gets more viewers than most of the legacy media does on their best day. And it's not just a numbers game, it's also the quality of the audience that's very important, because it's one thing when you go on CNN, you're going to get one type of people watching you, and it's another type when you go on Joe Rogan. Now, Kamala Harris has huge difficulty reaching young men. Like, they're noticing that they're hemorrhaging heavily in the polls when it comes to young men. Joe Rogan has that audience. Like, a lot of young men are watching Joe Rogan, so like she would have a rare opportunity to connect with those people. Unfortunately for her, she's not a good debater. Like, she doesn't do well in just a normal conversation. Like, even with friendly interviewers, like even when she went on CNN, and it wasn't even a hardball interview, she was struggling with that. Now, if she actually goes with Joe Rogan and he starts pressing her on issues and he starts talking with her, she's going to collapse, which is probably why she wanted to take Joe Rogan out of his element, out of his studio, where he can't fact check, where he can't have the ability to ask people to bring up articles. Wanted to get him away from that and only give him 1 hour so that they can't really go into the nitty-gritty. Which, you know, I mean, it's the quality of politicians that the Democrats choose. You know, say what you want about Vladimir Putin, but his interview with Tucker Carlson, he went on a large tangent talking about the history of Russia from his perspective. And there were a lot of memes that came out making fun of him for not answering the question and avoiding it. But at the end of the day, it showed that he has the memory to remember all of those things, or at least most of those things. And he also has the charisma in order to tell Tucker Carlson to sit down, shut up, and let him talk. Do you think Kamala Harris can do that? Like, can she go through the history of the United States from her memory? Even if it was like her perspective where she would talk about colonialism and shit, do you think she can do that? Do you think she has the charisma to tell Joe Rogan to shut the fuck up and let her talk? Probably not, which is why it would be out of her element. So, apparently, she would be appearing on the podcast and says, we talked to Rogan and his team, and unfortunately, it isn't going to work right now because of the scheduling for the campaign. This is absolute bullshit. It's got nothing to do with the scheduling. Again, Joe Rogan is the most viewed podcaster in the world. Last time I checked, like, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but even if it wouldn't be number one, he's very close. You as a politician, especially when he has, like, the demographic that you're trying to reach, you would make time for him. What I think happened is that people saw her performance on CNN and they saw her performance in other places, and they realized that, no, this would actually hurt us. Like, it's not strategic. There's no advantage from this. Like, there's no way she can actually gain up in the polls, but there are a lot of ways that she can go down, so it's best we actually don't do it in the interview. So, my conclusion is that this is why they wanted to do it this way. This is why they wanted to take Joe Rogan out of his studio, is so that he can't bring up articles, he can't, you know, fact check or talk about things that contradict her. It would be out of his element, and more importantly, they would control the space, right? Like, they would only have 1 hour. They would allow her to go on a rant. I mean, 1 hour is way too short. Like, 1 hour is what? Like, for the first 15 minutes, you just do the introductions. So, this is the real reason that they're not going to do it. Which is quite concerning if you think about it, because the role of a president is to represent the nation state with other world leaders. So, like, if you can't sit down and talk with the journalist, how are you going to manage to sit down and address Putin? How are you going to manage to sit down and address Xi or any other world leader? It's going to be very difficult, isn't it? But again, this is the quality of politicians that the Democrat Party is putting forward. I don't think like there's anyone that J.D. Vance or Trump wouldn't speak with. I mean, I generally think even the most disingenuous reporters or journalists, they could handle. Like, they could just sit down with almost anyone and have like a normal conversation. but I can't say the same about Kamala. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.